want to experience surrender in some area of their life, but they don't feel like they can. There's a lot of emphasis in today's society which says, oh, well, men have to lead, men have to be in charge. But that's not always the case. It doesn't always have to be that. And in fact, I think that when a man can learn to truly let down that performance and say, step into presence and say, you know what, I want to operate from a place of service. I want to provide, and I want to operate from a place of devotion. But that devotion, I don't need to necessarily be the one who's leading the relationship. It can be really powerful. And I would argue too that in most relationships, it's usually the one who's leading anyway, in subtle ways. What the difference is that, in a female-led relationship, it's not subtle. It may be subtle to the world around us, but it's not subtle to us. We know. And I guess case in point, my mistress said to me today, well, why don't you should make a video about this course that you're teaching and speak to it and speak about what it's about. And so here I am doing that because of that direction. It was that direction and clarity that kind of gave me that. It was like, oh, okay, here's something she's seeing that I could be doing that I hadn't necessarily thought about doing, but it was a good idea. And I think that this is a really important thing. Bob, you said that men have to recognize that asking for help is not a weakness. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And that's actually part of what devotion's about. It's about learning to ask for help. It's about also learning to really step into our sovereignty as submissive men, as men who desire or men who desire to surrender, or who desire to, in one form or another, let go of the need to be in control of every area of life. We want to let go of white-knuckling. So one of the things that we really do, or we're going to really do in this container of devotion, is we're going to establish the container and explore the why behind the desire to surrender and submit. And there's no wrong answers. But I think it's really important to get clear, like, well, why do I want this? What does this mean for me? This isn't about pleasing someone else. And that's really one of the things that we end up exploring in depth as well, because it's important to understand, like, that we're not codependent nice guys. And that's not what we want to be. We're not abandoning ourselves. Instead, we're stepping into sovereignty. We're stepping into the fullness of our being and letting that speak to us. And of course, that's not the only place we're going to go. We're going to explore the relationship and identity of man as a submissive and how to reconcile that with sovereign service and strength. It takes a lot of strength to submit. There are people today who think, oh, well, if you're submitting, that you're weak, or you're a cuck, or you're a simp. And I mean, unless you want to be called those things, chances are that's not really how you identify. I don't identify as a cuck. I don't identify as a simp. I do identify as a man who is stepping into his sovereignty and accepting that he doesn't need to be in control of everything, that he can ask for help, that he can surrender, and that he can even recognize that, like in my particular case, that submission for me gets me out of my head and gets me into my body.